I'm Emily Chang, and this is the best of Bloomberg Technology, where we bring you all our top interviews from this week in tech. Coming up, our exclusive conversation with Keith Block of Salesforce, his first interview since being named co-CEO with Mark Benioff. Plus, anti-social, President Trump's campaign against what he is calling unfair search and social media. What are his next steps, and how are tech companies responding? And Elon Musk has made a dramatic U-turn on his controversial attempt to take Tesla private. We wrap up the saga of the deal that never happened. First to our top story, Salesforce gave a disappointing forecast in its latest results, and unearned revenue, which indicates future subscription sales, came in below expectations. Meantime, the San Francisco-based software maker has recently promoted Keith Block to run the company alongside co-founder Mark Benioff, embracing the idea of two chief executives. Block started with Salesforce back in 2013, became chief operating officer in 2016, and also serves as vice chair. I sat down with him for an exclusive conversation and talked about his experience as co-CEO so far.
We're certainly in a situation where Mark and I have been working together very, very closely. We've been together for over 5 years. We've known each other a long time. And this is just a natural extension of the operating model that we've been working together. So when you think about our company, we're a large global enterprise. We're growing quickly. And this is an opportunity for us to put together a decision-making process that enables us to make decisions very quickly for our customers. And again, it's just a natural extension of what we've been doing.
So he's a co-founder of the company. He's a big personality. How do you divide responsibilities?
Well, again, we've been operating under these principles for the last 5 years. It's a very trust-based relationship. It gives us an opportunity to focus on our strengths. Mark, when you think about Mark as you described him, he's a visionary. He has great ideas around the product strategy. He's an outstanding CEO. He's passionate about the culture. My focus is on growth and execution and customer success and operational excellence, and it really allows us to focus on our strengths and areas of expertise.
So look, co-CEO structures haven't necessarily worked out so well. In other cases, in fact, some would say it's prevented the ability to be decisive. How do you overcome those historical precedents? Like, what are the plans to troubleshoot if necessary?
Well, again, I think it starts with trust. And we have a very, very trust-based relationship. We're both trusted advisors to each other. We collaborate all the time. We make decisions together. We see this as a way to execute at speed, at scale. Because we're growing at scale. Look at our results in Q2. You've seen our results in Q2. We're wildly excited about what we've done in Q2. And this is just a great operating model for us.
So you've boosted your forecast for the year. The stock is down slightly after hours. What should investors be looking at in this quarter?
Well, I think the investors should be thrilled because we are thrilled with these results. Again, we're the number one leader in the number one category of enterprise software, the fastest growing category of enterprise software. We're number one in sales and marketing and service and platform. And we're growing at a rate that is twice the rate of the market. So we're taking share, we're driving success with our customers, and we're very, very pleased. We're operating at scale, we're growing at scale, and everything is going well with the company. We're very pleased with the performance.
You said you're well on your way to that $23 billion in 2022. What do you need to do to get there? What will you do to get there?
Well, I think that growth strategy is in place. When we think about our growth levers, we think about our international expansion. Our fastest growing region was in EMEA this year at 32% growth, so we're super excited about that. APAC was at 28% growth. We think about our focus on industries and speaking the language of our customers, so we're doing some incredible things in financial services and manufacturing and public sector. And then, of course, we have the world's largest ecosystem in the cloud. We have great business with our systems integrators and our ISVs. So we're very, very thrilled with that growth strategy. And again, we're operating at scale, we're executing at scale, and we're on our path to the $23 billion goal, which makes us the fastest growing top 5 enterprise software company in the world.
Salesforce has redefined customer relationship management. What are the white spaces you see out there that still exist for you?
Well, there's plenty of opportunity just in the space that we play, but as you know, we're considered to be one of the most innovative companies in the world. So again, having the market share leader in sales and service and marketing and platform, there's a lot of room to run. Focus on our industry specialization and our industry strategy and our industry solutions, focus on our international expansion. All of that just realizes great customer success and great growth, like our success in the quarter.
Salesforce has been known for making big deals. We've seen you make some fairly big acquisitions of late. How much will M&A be part of your strategy, and where?
Well, it's very interesting. When we think about our growth strategy, we think about both organic and inorganic, and our ideas always come from our customers. We listen to our customers. They give us our great ideas. When we acquired MuleSoft, our most recent acquisition, just in Q2, as you know, we've seen great success with this already, but we got that idea from our customers. When we bought Demandware, we got that idea from our customers. So we listen to our customers to drive our innovation strategy and our growth strategy.
I've traced plenty of Salesforce acquisition rumors. Often we hear Twitter come up, that Salesforce is interested in buying a company as big as Twitter. Is that something that has ever been of interest?
Well, again, we listen to our customers, and that's really a guiding light. They are an inspiration for us, and that's how we decide how we innovate, whether it's organically or inorganically.
So let me put it this way. Would you do a deal that big? Are you open to big, potentially transformative, but also risky deals?
Well, again, MuleSoft was the largest acquisition that we've done in the history of the company, and it's just been, barely 90 days, and we're super excited about what we're seeing.
So let's talk a little bit about international expansion. You said we should look for growth there. What is the actual status? Because that's where Salesforce has a lot of untapped opportunity.
Well, we've made a lot of investment over the last 5 years to drive growth in the international space. Again, EMEA was 32% growth in the quarter. APAC was 28% growth in the quarter. And really, this is a strategy born out of driving success for our customers globally. We want to be able to service our customers globally. So there's a lot of room to run. And we're very, very excited about those results. You can see it in our Q2.
You worked at Oracle for 26 years. We've heard Mark Benioff and Larry Ellison trade barbs many, many times. Is Oracle in as dire straits as Benioff seems to think it is?
Well, look, we're in a wonderful place. That was a planet a long, long time ago, long, far away ago. I've been with Salesforce 5 years. I just celebrated my 5th year anniversary in June. And I couldn't be more thrilled to be here, working with Mark, leading the company in the future together with Mark, and excited for the future for Salesforce.
So who is the competition then?
Well, there's competition in every element. And in any given time, there's a different type of innovation that could enter our space. Our category of CRM continues to broaden. So we see competition, but the fact of the matter is that look at our results. We're the category leader in CRM, the fastest growing segment of enterprise software. We're growing at twice the rate of the market. We're taking share. We're operating at scale. We're growing at scale. We're executing at scale. And at the end of the day, our job is to focus on our customers. We have over 30,000 employees. They wake up every single day, and their focus is on driving customer success. And if we take care of that, everything else will take care of itself.
So as the company continues to sort of verticalize its sales strategy, what are the industry sectors that we will see you target?
Well, certainly financial services has been a hotbed for us. Healthcare is also a hotbed for us. Public sector, manufacturing, telecommunications, kind of the classic that you would expect.
Instagram has announced it will now offer users the option of using more secure third-party authentication apps to log in. This comes after Instagram users were reporting they were being hacked, only to discover their account credentials had been replaced with Russian email addresses. President Trump, meantime, has issued a warning to social media companies after he accused Google of rigging search results to show negative news about him. Take a listen.
Google and Twitter and Facebook, they're really treading on very, very troubled territory, and they have to be careful. It's not fair to large portions of the population.
Google responded to the president's accusations of rigged search results this week, saying, when users type queries into the Google search bar, our goal is to make sure they receive the most relevant answers in a matter of seconds. Search is not used to set a political agenda, and we don't bias our results toward any political ideology. To talk about this story, we sat down with Kate Mitchell, co-founder of Scale Venture Partners, Bloomberg Tech's Mark Bergen, who covers Google, and in D.C., we had Bloomberg's Ben Brody.
He might have a little bit of a point in that some of the new conservative sites farther out on the right, more conspiracy-minded, probably aren't showing up very much in Google search results. Beyond that, Fox News, which of course he loves and watches religiously, comes up all the time. And we here in D.C., we hear this from politicians all the time. You only write the bad things. And the answer is that that's kind of what the news media does. It's a common critique, and it's something we hear a lot from the president.
Mark, what's been the response from Google?
Nothing beyond the statement this morning. I think, talking to some folks there that claim just that this is outrageous, right? That the idea that Google does this intentionally. They dealt with this 2 years ago with the notion that they were suppressing negative search results about Hillary Clinton, and they didn't come out, I think, at that time with a full-throated endorsement, but certainly privately they've said that. Part of the issue here is that Google for 20 years has been pretty secretive about its algorithm and hasn't shared a lot of details, and so that can flame these sort of conspiracy theories. And to Ben's point, they have, like Facebook and Twitter, done a lot this past year dealing with criticism in the other direction, that they surface news disinformation, and so they've tended to weed out a lot of sites both on the right and the left, but predominantly on the right, and that's what sort of led to this moment.
Kate, you've spent a lot of time in Washington. What do you make of the fact that Google, Facebook, Twitter, they are all under attack by the president? I mean, do you think they actually have something to worry about?
Well, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, they're big platforms. They become big companies. And when you look at the top largest companies on the planet, a lot of them come out of Silicon Valley. So, of course, they're going to be in Trump's crosshairs. And particularly for someone who cares about coverage, these are now communications platforms. And so he's going to hear and read about himself and the people he cares about all the time. I do think they have something to potentially be worried about or involved in. You see them starting to take a much bigger role in Washington. They all have large offices, as we know, and starting to have more communications. More senior people will be showing up there next week to talk to the Senate Intel Committee on the broader issue of Russian meddling in the election and how we prevent it going forward. So I don't know that worry about it. I certainly everyone worries about overregulation, but I think they can't avoid, as you point out, Mark, being a something that needs to be discussed when we talk about communications, and is it fair and equal?
Ben, White House advisor Larry Kudlow said they're taking a look at Google. This is at the same time that Google is exploring expanding back into China with a censored search engine. What could the government actually do here?
In terms of news, there may not be a lot that the government can do. There is a liability shield that internet sites enjoy for third-party content. And if you were to cut into that, Google would probably face a lot of libel suits and things like that. I have not seen a lot of appetite to do that in Congress. I've heard a lot of threats. I have not otherwise heard a lot of appetite. The Federal Communications Commission might also have a little bit of a nexus here, but again, they just have shown no appetite generally to do this sorts of thing. What I would be looking at is whether or not the government can do things on privacy, or as Kate said, Russian election meddling that would otherwise hurt the company. Now, whether that's for coverage of Trump or something else, I think that's what they're looking over their shoulder for right now.
To that point, Sheryl Sandberg, the COO of Facebook, Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, and perhaps someone from Google, we don't know yet, will be testifying before Congress next week. Google has said they would send Kent Walker. Congress has said that's not good.
It's not adequate enough, yeah. And just our reporters this morning spoke to Senator Burr, chairs the committee, and some other senators, both in the Republican and Democrat, that said they want the CEO, they want Sundar Pichai, but they're not going, as far as we know right now, they're not going to subpoena Sundar to arrive.
Why not?
Why not the Senate subpoena? I don't know. I've heard some theory.
Why wouldn't Google say?
Why wouldn't Google say Sundar? Google's former CEO Eric Schmidt loved this kind of stuff, right? This is what he was. He loved getting in front. He was partly the CEO and chairman to do that, so the founders didn't have to. I'd say Sundar is much more in the mold of the Google founders, right? He is a product guy. He's in engineering. He loves being up in front of the company. He loves being at the developer conferences. He does not love addressing politics, and certainly doesn't love sitting in front and being grilled by senators.
Kate, is Google making a mistake by not sending their top executive?
I think they're missing an opportunity. I think Sundar's an incredible communicator and can be. And I think part of it is, that seriousness that now Facebook and Twitter are showing, I think is well received in Washington. I think it's well received by the public, because remember, we're part of the audience here too. So I think it is a missed opportunity. One of the challenges for all these companies is, data has been one of their biggest assets. Their algorithms are one of their biggest assets. So they should be also playing a role from a shareholder point of view, and also perhaps making sure they're in the conversation to defend part of their assets that are so important while being responsive to the public. And I think not having somebody senior there makes their voice have less clout in the middle of this conversation.
Bloomberg's Ben Brody there, as well as Mark Bergen and Kate Mitchell of Scale Venture Partners. Well, Facebook, Google, and Twitter recently all took down Iranian government-backed accounts meant to influence global affairs. The cyber company they have to thank? FireEye. Our conversation with CEO Kevin Mandia is next. And after 3 weeks of chaos, Elon Musk says he won't be attempting to take Tesla private after all, but investors and regulators still have lots of questions. This is Bloomberg. It began with the news that Facebook had shut down 652 Iranian and Russian-backed accounts trying to spread global misinformation. Then it was Twitter and Google's turn, taking action against 284 and 52 accounts, respectively. And it provoked the following reaction from Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg.
Security is not something that you ever fully solve. Our adversaries are sophisticated and well-funded, and we have to constantly keep improving to stay ahead. But the shift we've made from reactive to proactive detection is a big change, and it's going to make Facebook safer for everyone over time.
One company helping to secure the internet is FireEye. In fact, it is thanks to FireEye's warning that Facebook and Google spotted those disinformation campaigns. FireEye CEO Kevin Mandia joined us to talk about what the company discovered.
First off, you get a sense for these sort of things. A couple decades of responding to cyber attacks. You start learning the tradecraft of the adversary, and a lot of times there's a direct link between folks who are doing cyber attacks, breaking in the networks, and folks that are doing information operations. You can't really separate them. Sometimes maybe they're just walking down the hall and talking to each other. But when I talked to the analysts that found this, a lot of it was luck, and a lot of it was just their unique training and their experience. They started pulling a thread on a Twitter account that just didn't seem right. It was pro-Iranian, it was anti-Saudi, yet the character behind the account just didn't feel right. It felt more like a state-sponsored account. As you pull the threads, more things emerged, and we landed with at least the lowest bounds of multiple sites and accounts.
Right, you're talking about the lowest bounds
exactly
here.
Right.
What else could there be? I mean, we have to believe there are other countries doing this as well.
I think so. I think we're at, and one of the reasons we do all these information operations trying to find them is it's tangential to protecting our customers, but also the rules haven't settled yet. Nobody knows what's fair game. As I travel the world and meet other, departments of defense and other government officials, everybody's thinking, what is a government's role on offense? What is a government's role in the information space? What's fair game, what's not? And as we're setting the rules, we feel, let's find where there's disingenuous sites, where there's not authentic news, and point it out to folks.
So do you believe these threats could be originating from other countries as well? Could North Korea or China be doing the same? What are you seeing? What kind of evidence have you seen to support that?
Well, if we see evidence, we'll tell folks. But at the end of the day, it stretches credulity to think it won't happen. The information space is just another tool governments are going to use to promote their agenda.
We had Microsoft President Brad Smith on the show last week. They also identified several web pages that were operated by a group tied to the Russian military. They took control of those web pages. Take a listen to what Brad Smith had to say.
What we're seeing now is a pattern that in many respects is similar to what we saw in the United States in 2016 when certain campaigns and political parties were attacked. It is similar to the pattern that we saw in France in 2017 when we really saw every major candidate for the French presidency targeted. We're seeing it again.
Would you agree with that?
I think it makes sense. I think if you're a political official, I think if you're wealthy, if you're influential, if you have power, you'll always be targeted by a criminal element or potentially for espionage purposes.
So what would you say is the extent of these disinformation campaigns? How difficult is this to actually stop?
Well, I think it's very difficult to stop. I think it's going to take zone defense by many different folks, and that's why it's good we're talking about it, today on Bloomberg. Is the more people that are aware of it, the more people will spot it. It is easier for the folks who are trying to be divisive to spread fake news to do that than it is to sometimes catch it. So we'll take group defense, zone defense. We're out there looking for it. If we can see it and it's organized, we hope to make a difference.
So what should we be looking for? I mean, my inbox fills with spam every day. I
got it.
Hundreds of Twitter messages that are fake or seem suspect.
Well, I think everybody can play their role in it. Give certain credibility to certain things and maybe less credibility to others. I think in general, most people don't want to be surrounded by lies. They want to be surrounded by truth. And when you see sites going up purporting to be news sites, but you know it's disingenuous and not authentic, I think you have a right to know about it.
At the same time, when you have a president who says that Google is completely biased, Facebook and Twitter also biased, does that run contrary to what you're trying to accomplish?
Well, I'm not sure. I don't know if I have an opinion on that one way or another. I can tell you that what we're trying to accomplish is just, we're protecting our customers the best way we can. And we have found that direct link between geopolitics and cyber attacks. And we just need to be informed about both sides.
Now, FireEye, as I understand it, was recently engaged by Google to detect breaches. Tell us about that.
Well, I don't know if they were recently engaged or not. I can just tell you we have thousands of customers that want our threat intelligence, that rely on it to kind of come up with their own risk profile. Is our industry at risk more today than yesterday? So that's probably all I'd tell you is, there's a lot of companies that rely on our intel.
So what can you tell us in general about how much you've been approached by potentially new businesses in this new threat landscape, now that we are more aware of what is out there?
I think almost every business wants threat intelligence because what we can't be, I'm a cybersecurity expert, but I don't work on the front lines of industrial control system network. We need to get the intel out to every single entity so they can assess the risk to their industry based on their business, based on what they know about geopolitics, and based on their current security platform. So the bottom line is we promote the intel to folks so they can assess their own risk and better safeguard their own networks.
Do you think it's too late to save the midterm elections or protect them?
I've never been, I'm speaking more as just a layperson now than a cyber expert. It's real hard to judge how the hearts and minds of people are won or altered by fake news or from anonymous people.
Why is this so hard to stop?
I think the platforms, the anonymity of the internet makes it really hard. You can sit 10,000 miles away and say you're from Ohio or say you're from Texas and no one can tell the difference.
Do you think these companies have a bigger responsibility that they have not been living up to? I mean, the fact that you tipped off Facebook, but Facebook couldn't see that for themselves, isn't that a little bit concerning?
Well, I think they might have been able to see it for themselves. I don't know what their internal policies are, but I can tell you this. Policing a platform of hundreds of millions of people worldwide would be a very complex challenge to do.
FireEye CEO Kevin Mandia there. Coming up, Apple's new iPhones are likely to have a familiar design. Why the world's most valuable company is planning to double down on the iPhone 10. Details on that ahead. And Bloomberg Tech is live streaming on Twitter. Check us out at Technology, and be sure to follow our global breaking news network, TikTok, on Twitter. This is Bloomberg. Welcome back to the best of Bloomberg Technology. I'm Emily Chang. Elon Musk has made a dramatic U-turn on his controversial attempt to take Tesla private. After almost 3 weeks of fever-pitched excitement, Musk wrote a blog stating the electric car maker will remain public. Musk wrote, "I knew the process of going private would be challenging, but it's clear that it would be even more time-consuming and distracting than initially anticipated. After considering all these factors, I met with Tesla's board of directors and let them know that I believe the better path is for Tesla to remain public." With a distraction out of the way, analysts expect the focus to return to the fundamentals, Tesla's ability to churn out its Model 3 sedans at a steady and sustainable pace, as well as turn a profit on the car. Ivan Feinseth, Tigris Financial Partners Chief Investment Officer and Bloomberg Businessweek's Max Chafkin, joined us for reaction.
He said when he tweeted, that funding was secured. But if you look at both his statement and the reports that came out, it wasn't there. And that aside, this deal didn't make a whole lot of sense to begin with. Tesla has done very well on the public markets, and the argument that this was going to be somehow less of a distraction for the company, which is what Musk initially said, didn't really make a lot of sense, because as we saw, this created kind of a circus for 2 weeks.
Now, Ivan, you have potentially multiple SEC inquiries here, issues around potential SEC fraud, market manipulation. Is this something that investors and analysts can easily forget, or is Tesla going to be plagued by uncertainty for the foreseeable future?
I think there will be some issues surrounding Musk in that tweet. In the end, I don't think it will be some type of bad punishment, but I believe he will be fined. I think he will be able to keep his CEO role, But this was just an issue of bad process and bad governance, and I think was motivated by Elon's own frustration of dealing with production issues and market issues and journalists and analysts and short sellers that motivated him to send the tweet in the first place.
Max, what are broader investors and analysts? What is the community saying? I mean, do they still, as far as you could tell, want Elon Musk in this job?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think Elon's even the critics probably would be cautious about just tossing him out because the fact is the company needs to do so much over the next couple of years to justify its valuation, and even in the ways that Elon Musk has failed or has failed to live up to expectations, it's not easy to see how you bring in, regular car executive and you necessarily do a whole lot better. And the fact is, a lot of these investors see it as a bet on him, not as a bet on Tesla, not even as a bet on electric cars. So it's this kind of weird box that they've been in for basically the last year.
I wonder, though, Ivan, has Elon Musk fundamentally undermined the trust that investors will have in him? I mean, we uncovered multiple untruths here. Not only that funding wasn't secured, but that he didn't actually spend only 2 hours in Spain, but he was gone for 5 days from the factory floor, as he should and easily could have been. But there is this, pattern of lying, essentially.
Well, he has never met his production goals, and the market and investors forgive him for that. I think you have to look beyond some of these short-term issues and unfortunate issues and look, as Max says, to the bigger picture of what the company must do over the next few years to increase production, bring out the additional models in the pipeline to justify the valuation.
Max, talk to us about the potential penalties that could result as a result of these SEC inquiries. We've talked about potential criminal liability. We've talked about fines. New Street Research suggested that he could agree to certain controls on his communications. Would that mean he can't use Twitter?
I think a lot of Tesla investors would hope that. I mean, one of the ironies of this is if Elon wanted to squeeze the shorts, he probably would have been better off just stopping tweeting, announcing a 3-month hiatus from all tweet activity, which probably would have cheered up a lot of investors and helped him out. I think one thing that happened here is we saw basically a crack in the support for Elon Musk, both at the board level and on the investor level. So it's not as if people want to just dump him overboard or even necessarily rein him in. But I think this, combined with some other stuff, could start to lead to some significant changes. And those other things could be, disappointing results in terms of bottom line or production numbers, or something more dramatic from the SEC than just a fine.
Meantime, Ivan, Bloomberg's Model 3 tracker appears that Tesla could have actually exceeded 6,000 Model 3s a week this month. I mean, presumably that is good news if they can keep it up. But what are you actually monitoring on the factory floor?
Well, I think the target of 5,000 and even potentially 6 would be good. To go over 6 may not be good. You don't want to ever increase the production too much and then have issues with the cars. I think in the bigger picture, in what has happened here, there is a need for increased governance at Tesla, and this whole event may actually make Tesla a better company and make Elon more focused on production and less distracted by the outside issues. So this actually could be a benefit in the long term.
That was Ivan Feinseth of Tigris Financial Partners and Bloomberg Business Week's Max Chafkin. Well, mark your calendars. Apple has announced it's holding its next event September 12th. The world's most valuable company plans to triple down on the iPhone X, offering yet again 3 new models this fall. The new phones will have a range of prices, features, and sizes to increase their appeal. However, none will be wholly new designs like the iPhone X was last year. Gene Munster of Loop Ventures and Bloomberg Tech's Mark Gurman joined us to discuss.
We know there'll be 3 phones. They're all going to look like the iPhone X. They're all going to have Face ID. There's going to be 2 high-end OLED models, 1 lower-end LCD model that comes in several colors. Should be appealing to people upgrading from previous year's iPhones, perhaps the iPhone 6 or 7, or people coming from the iPhone 5 or iPhone SE. So it should be a big upgrade for them, but if you're coming from an iPhone 10 from last year, not a lot to see here new this year.
Gene, is this a smart decision for Apple?
Yeah, it is. We're just, by the way, following Mark's reporting here on this and done a great job on it. But yes, it's a smart decision. The reason why is that what they're trying to do is really inch up ASPs. And the Street's looking for flat ASPs in 2019 over 18, so at 745. But this, if you just kind of look at the math, the most high-end phone, the one that's going to be about 25% bigger than the current iPhone 10, is probably going to start close to $1,200. And so you kind of pool all of this together, and what you come out with is an ASP of probably $830, $840 at its peak, and the last peak was just under $800. So that's a big deal, and I just want to also point out that this is yet another step in them broadening out the product line. The lowest iPhone starts at $350. Now we're going to have the most expensive one with the higher capacity is going to be $1,300.
Well, and Mark, do you think Apple will continue to make the Amazon and Whole Foods have expanded delivery of groceries through Prime Now in new cities across the United States, including Columbus, Dayton, Portland, Greater Washington, D.C., and additional areas of New York City. As Amazon pours more money into its Whole Foods venture, competitors like Walmart, Kroger, and Target have also stepped up their online grocery presence. Well, Bungalow is hoping to make a name for itself in the competitive real estate market. The firm aims to offer people affordable places to live with roommates who've been vetted on the platform. The company has just raised a $14 million round of funding led by Khosla Ventures. As part of that round, Keith Raboy of Khosla joined Bungalow's board of directors. We caught up with the CEO, Andrew Collins, and Keith Raboy to discuss.
Residential real estate is the largest asset class in the United States, and it's basically been unaffected by technology. All areas of the economy other than real estate have actually been reinvented over the last 20 years, and it's time for real estate to adjust to the modern world. So what was exciting about Bungalow is it takes existing inventory that was basically built in the 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, where families and lifestyles were very different, and converts it into the demand that we see today for millennials in urban environments.
Everybody has heard about the people trying to get an apartment. It is so hard. It is such a headache. How does it actually work?
So for us, we really streamline the process. We make it much easier with all of our online listings. We have 3D walkthroughs on our website where people can come, even if they're not viewing it in person, to really walk through. And then we really help individuals with finding other great people to live with as well. And so that's the real bread and butter at Bungalow.
So why isn't this something that Airbnb could do?
Well, Airbnb is not really in the business of permanent housing. Bungalow is in the business of providing permanent places to live. So they're very different. Like Airbnb provides short-term travel, vacation travel, and does it extremely well. But there's a very big difference between providing a place to live for 3 to 5 years and providing a place to live for 3 to 5 days.
So what about the regulatory issues? I mean, obviously Airbnb has run into a lot of regulatory issues. I mean, how do city regulators feel about this?
Well, for us, we're really helping increase the inventory of long-term housing. And so Airbnb has really paved the way with subletting is now explicitly provided for as long as it's greater than 30 days. And our leases are generally 4 to 18 months. Mm-hmm. And on average, our renters are staying with us for close to a year in that initial lease.
So you've been working on this for 18 months. You've already raised $64 million. I mean, that's a lot of money super fast, isn't it?
Well, you mentioned WeWork, so obviously we're like, but real estate's expensive. Real estate works really well when you know what you're doing, when you have an advantage and you can price things accurately. You can build incredibly interesting products and services, but it's not cheap. Every house Open Door buys obviously costs $234,000, and when we do it well, we get more than that back. But fundamentally, real estate can't be done, for $10. It takes real money to change the world.
So Open Door has been called a home flipper. Basically, you buy. I know you don't love that term. You buy homes from homeowners, you fix them up, you turn them around. What sort of trends are you seeing in the real estate market, given what's happening with rates, what's happening with the administration, what's happening with the stock market?
Well, we see, Open Doors live in 13 cities across the United States. We're basically adding one new city a month, and next year we'll add probably 2 cities a month. So by the end of next year, we'll be in 50 plus cities. And so we see markets move differently in the United States. San Francisco is a very unique real estate market. The prices here are 4 times the national average. The days on market for a house is 1/4 the national average. New York City is also very different. Overall, I think at the very high end of the market, which really isn't mainstream, there's been a softening of $1 million, several $1 million homes. But in the mainstream part of America, people want places to live. They want to upgrade. They want to get an extra bedroom for their kid. They want to move to a better job. And none of that's changed. So the number of houses being exchanged, which is the primary metric, how many houses are being bought and sold, isn't changing, at least right now.
So where do you think the market is going?
I think the market is still likely to have appreciation across the board, except at the top 1% of houses. But then if you talk about the 83% of houses, as I said, the median home in the United States is worth $234,000. And even 2 distributions away from that is worth $500,000. So as you think about those homes, there's more demand for them. I mean, you see it in urban environments, which is why Bungalow is such an attractive investment, is there's more people that want to live in San Francisco than there are supply of bedrooms, because San Francisco didn't build enough inventory. Seattle went through this and decided to build, but a lot of cities didn't. And if the cities that didn't build over the last decade that have jobs and high paying jobs have an issue with how do you have all the people that want to live there, it's a little bit like the immigration debate. People should be able to live in any city they want in the United States and pursue the best career they can find for the most compensation and with the best mission that aligns with their values, but they literally can't do that. People cannot move to the Bay Area because there's not enough housing. There's not enough housing in many cities in the United States, and that makes no sense. So things like Bungalow can help fix that. Open Door allows people to flexibly move whenever they want, which is another part of moving to a better job, a better career, a better environment.
Andrew, what about the safety and security question here? I mean, you're matching up roommates. You've got to do background checks, I presume. There are a lot of scary roommate stories out there.
Yeah, absolutely. But there are a lot of scary roommate stories because people can't do those background checks. And so they don't have the same capabilities that we as a company can provide. And so that's one of the things that we think the most strongly about. And as an organization, we can provide that safety and trust that you can't do if you were searching on Craigslist for a roommate on your own.
How can you confidently say that you can do those background checks? I mean, we've seen Uber and even Lyft struggle to do background checks on their own drivers.
I think background checks are one piece of the puzzle. We also fundamentally are doing reference checks, interviews, and helping roommates through that decision process. So that's not just background checks as one criteria of how we check on that.
Keith, do you think Trump and the rates issue is going to affect prices?
Well, obviously there's a connection between real estate values and interest rates. I mean, most people buy, other than the Bay Area, with a mortgage. A mortgage, the effective cost of a mortgage is fundamentally driven by the interest rate. And as interest rates go up, mortgages get more expensive, which means the purchasing power of a homeowner declines. So I think there is a fundamental connection there. That said, everybody who lives in the United States still needs a place to live, and we're not adding enough supply fast enough in many cities. So that causes appreciation where people can afford less, which creates a mismatch, and that nobody knows exactly how that's going to play out.
Andrew, what's the cost of this service? I mean, it's you're paying for convenience, right?
That's correct. But because we're helping individuals find great other individuals to live with and are renting by the room, it's 40 to 50% less than what a studio apartment would cost.
So talk to us then about how you're protecting the data of the people that you're working with.
Sorry.
Well, I mean, there are privacy issues here. I mean, you're getting very personal with these people who are roommates and potential roommates, right?
Absolutely, but we're keeping all of that information and privacy internally to our team, and it's something that we think very thoughtfully about.
Keith Raboy of Coastal Ventures with Bungalow co-founder and CEO Andrew Collins. Coming up, how does Twilio make a name for itself in the crowded cloud computing sector? We hear from CEO Jeff Lawson next. Since going public in 2016, cloud computing software vendor Twilio has been steadily growing its customer base in what's turning into a very crowded market. In its most recent earnings report, the company posted its second ever profitable quarter and had a rosy outlook. We talked to Twilio CEO Jeff Lawson about the strategy going forward.
There's nothing in particular we did in this quarter. I think it's been the gradual process of building the company over the last 10 years that focuses on customer success. And we have this really amazing business model, which is that we have the platform approach, which puts developers first. Developers bring Twilio into companies of every shape and size, and they use Twilio to build all sorts of different types of interactions with their customers. And we see this in industries from travel and hospitality and real estate to tech companies, old companies, new companies, everything you can imagine. And then with a usage-based pricing model, it starts out small as those developers are experimenting, and then when they succeed, we succeed because the usage grows and our revenue grows. And so what you see in this platform business model is an efficient way to acquire customers with developers at the lead of that, and then this usage-based pricing model that gives us this great expansion rate inside of all of these customers. The confluence of all that is what you see in the strength in our financial performance.
So WhatsApp is your biggest customer, for example. What do you help them do?
When you sign up for WhatsApp or install WhatsApp on a new phone, they send you that text message to confirm your identity. Twilio is powering that use case.
What steps are you taking to engage with larger corporate clients?
Well, we're seeing software become an important part of every company's strategy. And so where it used to be, you outsourced software that was not strategic, well, now every company needs to be good at building software in order to differentiate themselves. And when they do, they hire software developers, and those developers bring in Twilio. Now, if you're a startup, maybe you bring in Twilio and you get started, and that's enough. But when you're an enterprise, of course, there's going to be more complex decision-making going on. So our sales team comes in, follows the lead of those internal developers who get the ball rolling with Twilio, and often build a prototype with very little friction and maybe put it on their own credit card. But then our sales team will come in and help that initial prototype and that initial idea that those developers are working on turn into reality at scale inside of a bigger enterprise.
Twilio is involved with voter engagement. Talk to us about the tools you're selling to politicians and to lobbyists.
Well, we see use cases in politics. And if you think about Twilio and engagement, it's about connecting people together. And so we've been really excited to partner with organizations that are connecting voters with their elected officials is one of the big areas where we've seen a lot of traction. In fact, we announced an initiative a couple of years ago now called Voices for Democracy. And this is part of Twilio.org. And what we said is, look, we have a very polarized world right now. We think what the world needs is people to connect with each other, and in particular, for representative democracy to work, voters need to believe that their elected officials are listening to them. And that is the most important kind of communications that needs to happen. Direct, constituent to representative communication.
At the same time, we're seeing democracy under threat. We're seeing state actors try to meddle in U.S. elections. How do you make sure that those interactions, if you're the middleman, are secure?
Well, we've been working with some really great organizations like the OpenGov Foundation that is actually bringing a solution for how to talk to constituents straight into the U.S. House of Representatives. And so what they're doing is actually working directly with the elected officials to power their communications, but to use modern channels like SMS. And there's now representatives that are in over 200 of the reps' offices where they say, look, text us if you want to talk to us. Don't try to call us. The phone lines are always busy. We get it. But now you can text us. And their staffers are actually manning that. And so what we do is we focus on working with great organizations that represent official channels of communication and help people to mobilize each other and get out their voices so that their voices are heard by their elected officials.
That was Twilio CEO Jeff Lawson. And that does it for this edition of the Best of Bloomberg Technology. We will bring you all the latest in tech throughout the week. You can tune in every day, 5 p.m. in New York, 2 p.m. in San Francisco. And Bloomberg Technology is live streaming on Twitter. Check us out at Technology. And be sure to follow our global breaking news network, TikTok, on Twitter. This is Bloomberg.